Hello guys, thank you so much for coming back to my channel. Welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about and closing out our conversation on dependent personality. Thank you so much for coming back to my channel for those who are subscribed. And for those who are new to the channel, I encourage you to hit the subscribe button so you can stick around with us, continue to grow and learn, suggest topics, and be a part of our community. The benefits for you in today's video is that we're going to talk about the association between dependent personality disorder and trauma. And I'm going to point out a couple of things that makes those two disorders difficult. All right, so let's jump in. So on Wednesday, we talked about what dependent personality disorder looks like, and I provided a couple of symptoms that you most likely have seen before but didn't know how to label or categorize them. And so in today's video, I want to give you at least 4 ways to look at dependent personality disorder as being connected to and exacerbated by trauma. So we know on this channel, because we talk about this a lot, that trauma has a lot to do with 2 things, which is environment and genes. And when those 2 things collide, we get trauma. Genetics, biology, and then whatever is happening throughout child development, adolescent development, and young adulthood, those things together, when they collide, can create trauma. So when you're dealing with somebody who has a predisposition to dependent personality disorder, right? So somebody who's genetically set up to have a dependent personality disorder, when you have somebody like this and you bring them in contact with trauma, you have a very chaotic situation, because now those of us who are clinicians, we have to try to tease apart what's what. And it begins to look similar. The lines can be blurred, right? Some people have been misdiagnosed with having borderline personality disorder when the real diagnosis is dependent personality disorder. Some people are diagnosed with PTSD when they should be diagnosed with dependent personality disorder. Dependent personality disorder is the most commonly diagnosed personality disorder, but unfortunately, it's the least heard of. We don't have a lot of research on it. We don't have a lot of knowledge on it. And you rarely even hear about it on YouTube. So, that's pretty unfortunate for those who experience the disorder, because they're going to get misdiagnosed, mistreated by a clinician, right? They're going to be treated for BPD or, anxiety when they should be treated for a personality disorder that's pervasive. So let's just talk about dependent personality disorder and how it relates to trauma, because I think that's important, and I think that's going to help us understand this a little bit better. So the first thing that connects dependent personality disorder with trauma is impulsivity and an over-reliance on other people. What I mean by that is when you have dependent personality disorder, you are impulsive or you are clingy and needy. What's going to happen is you're going to cling on to somebody who's not able to tolerate that so much, and they're going to run from you, right? They're going to sprint. They're out of there, because your neediness and your clinginess is such that they start to feel trapped. They start to feel cramped, right? They start to feel that there's a lack of boundaries. They also start to feel that there's a lack of emotional stability. And so what do? Well, they get afraid and they run. They say, nope, this is not what I thought. I'm sorry, this is not going to work. So there you have it. There's a traumatic event, because now you're trying to figure out, well, what did I do wrong? Well, it's the clinginess, right? It's the impulsivity. It's the over-reliance on other people that push this person away. So now you're dealing with relationship trauma. If you have an individual who is violent, abusive, neglectful, that can create trauma. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and so let me just throw this in here. If you have a dependent personality and you are attached to somebody who is violent and abusive, that's going to be really difficult as well, because you're going to stay in that relationship because you're dependent. You may even be codependent. You're going to stay in that abusive relationship, and that person who is abusive is not going to be able to tolerate your neediness, your clinginess, your over-reliance upon them, and they're going to abuse you. So, dependent personality disorder can result in its own trauma. It doesn't have to be that, you experience trauma and you have dependent personality disorder. It doesn't have to be that. It could be that you have dependent personality disorder and now you're developing trauma because of the types of situations you find yourself in. Okay. The next way to look at this is the mood swings and the behavioral instability of dependent personality disorder can lead to trauma, because let's say, for example, you're in a relationship where your moodiness and your fluctuations and behaviors and thought patterns and, all of that, your emotional intensity, that can create a situation where the spouse in that relationship is getting tired of you to a point of wanting to hit you or wanting to abuse you or use your money or assault you, exploit you, rape, right? Any of those kind of situations can happen to somebody with dependent personality disorder, because again, you become codependent. You need that relationship. You need that person, at least you feel you do, to function. And so because of that, you often find yourself in abusive situations that you can't get out of. Now, let me also throw this in here. If we're talking about something like religion or cults, right? And I don't mean Christianity, because that's my faith. I don't mean, Catholicism, because I know a lot of people who follow that faith as well. I mean cults, okay? Hardcore cults. Something like Heaven's Gate, okay? A cult like that can really attract people who are dependent. How and why? Well, what they do is they sell their ideas to the dependent person, and they say things like, you can really find your full potential here. You can really be strong here. You can really be smart in this area. If you become a part of our cult, you can become a leader, and I can put you in a leadership role. And so they know how to sell things to the individual who is dependent. So cults and really dangerous religion are things that people can get involved in who have dependent personality disorder. They can also get involved in, once again, domestic violence relationships, abusive households, polygamy, right? They get involved in all of these different areas, gangs, right? Sometimes white collar crimes where money is taken, or there's like these group crimes or these gang incidents, white collar gang incidents, right? All of that can involve somebody who's a dependent person in personality, because again, that dependent personality needs other people. There's this over reliance on other people, this neediness, this clinginess, and they can get sucked and pulled into a lot of situations that can result in imprisonment, legal charges, being highly influenced by criminals. The list goes on. And it can get really, really dark and confusing. And so this can also result in trauma. Okay. The next thing is dissociation and isolation, as well as withdrawal. People who have dependent personality disorder, when they are depressed, they withdraw, they isolate, they seclude themselves. And it's really easy for somebody with a trauma history to do those things alone, much less somebody with a dependent personality. So someone who's dealt with a traumatic childhood may dissociate to get away. They may isolate, and they also may withdraw from life. And that's not good for a dependent personality, because that person is going to end up in depression or end up with extraordinary anxiety. Okay. The next one is and the last one is cultural morals and values often make it hard for dependent personalities to escape from trauma, because here's what happens. The dependent personality may be a Hispanic individual, a Puerto Rican individual, a Native American individual, an African American individual, Italian, right? Those particular cultures have households where everybody is like this, I've had Hispanic friends where they're like this. I've had Italian friends who are like, they are so close with their family, their friends. My heritage, my Native American and African American heritage, we're very close. We're very close-knit with our families. We believe in the value of families. We believe in the closeness of family, sometimes to the exclusion of other people, friends, society. And so can you imagine somebody who has a dependent personality? Can you imagine what they would go through if they lost a family member or a spouse or a close friend to murder or a medical condition or, whatever, right? Can you imagine the trauma that they would go through because they're so dependent? So these particular cultures actually foster a certain dependency that can lead to trauma. So, these are just a couple of ideas to kind of, put in the back of your mind. If you have experienced any of this, I encourage you to let me know in the comment section below. Let me know if you can kind of see the correlation between trauma and dependent personality disorder. I'm going to be talking about some other topics. We're going to just jump in full force to the topic of trauma. I want to bring this topic back up. I think it's something we're always grappling with. So I will see you on Monday. Have a great weekend, and remember to take care of yourself. Engage in self-care. I'll see you on Monday. Bye-bye.